Hello, and welcome to the Spire Integration Partners Trade Show. My name is Peter Wright, and this is the Spire Assist's presentation of BreezeGL. First, a little background on me. I started working at Business Vision in 1993 as a tech support rep, became a Business Vision partner in 1998, and a Spire partner in 2014. Recently, I launched spireassist.com, a website devoted to tools, tips, and tricks for Spire users, along with some software products conceived during almost 30 years in this industry. I'm delighted to be able to present to you one of the first such products, BreezeGL. I must start by answering the question, what is BreezeGL? The simplest answer is that BreezeGL is Spire financial statements in Excel. You can generate and customize financial statements right in Excel and refresh the data at any time. For many, that would be more than enough reason to be interested. But BreezeGL can be more than just static financial reports. With some recently added features and a little creativity, BreezeGL can be a lot more. I'd like to ask and answer another question. Why Excel? The global economy is built on two things, the internal combustion engine and Microsoft Excel. Never forget this. Well, I happen to think Excel might even outlast the internal combustion engine. Or these words from J. Galt 212. It's Excel's world. We just live in it. Okay, perhaps Excel-stentialism is overstating the point a little, but you get the idea. Not sure who J. Galt 212 is, but here's one from someone with a little more bona fides. VisiCalc, of course, is the original personal computer spreadsheet program, a precursor to Excel. The bottom line is that many financial professionals eat, sleep, breathe, and frankly, worship Excel. I'd like to talk about who needs BreezeGL. Some people just want pretty reports. Financial statements are not just any accounting system report. They're sometimes the only reports that are presented to the outside world, perhaps to people that really matter. Your shareholders, your partners, your bank, your parent company. Some reports are pushed down to employees or managers. Financial reports are often pushed up. You want them to look good. Control freaks. Yeah, there, I said the quiet part out loud. Having customized reports for many people over the years, some clients know exactly what they want, right down to the font, the alignment, the number formats, the spacing. Finally, I have a tool I can give them and let them get on with it. A chart of accounts may appear to some as a simple list of accounts, but hidden in that list can be a great deal of structure. Divisions, segments, locations, profit centers, groups, subgroups, currencies. These structures can represent concepts like management responsibility, ownership, legal obligations, geographic regions, bricks and mortar locations. Rarely do these structures represent the same thing for different companies. So why should they be presented in the same way? A well-designed financial statement can illustrate these structures based on what they mean to your business. Some businesses are bound by external regulations to present financial statements in a very specific manner. The setup of the accounting software for the most efficient user entry and tracking of this data may not align well with those requirements. You may need to separate the structure of the GL used internally from the financial reports you publish at the end. It's quite common for Spire customers to have multiple companies that need to be reported on together. In a perfect world, these companies would all be created at the same time with the express intention of consolidating the financial statements. When an account is added in one company, it will be added with the same account number in all the companies at the same time. Rarely, however, is this the case. BreezeGL enables you to consolidate company financials even if those companies have completely different charts of accounts, base currencies, or even different fiscal year ends. So, who's using it? This is a quote from Penny, a client I like to call Client Zero, the first user of BreezeGL and the inspiration behind its development. Her group of companies is a perfect example of the need for BreezeGL. Multiple companies, each with multiple retail locations. She saves countless hours every month versus manually creating the spreadsheets she needs to report. If reviewing those spreadsheets at the end meant that adjusting entries were required, she'd have to do the whole process all over again. BreezeGL exists entirely within an Excel workbook. This main screen enables you to maintain a list of companies that this spreadsheet can access. The standard BreezeGL product contains links to 2 sample sets of data. Everything in this presentation can be performed on a demo version of BreezeGL with nothing extra to install or configure. Simply download and run. These 2 company datasets happen to reside on Spire's own cloud hosting server. But BreezeGL works the same way for both cloud-based and on-premise datasets. You don't even need Spire installed on your computer to run BreezeGL. So your accountant or Spire partner can review and customize your financials remotely from their office. Adding your own company is simple. All the information required you already have access to. The name of your server is shown when you log into Spire. The user and passwords are the same ones you use for Spire. It's important to note that all security is handled by the Spire API. The user credentials you enter must have access to the Spire GL module and be able to retrieve any GL data. You can further enhance security by telling Breeze not to save the password into the spreadsheet. It must be entered each time the spreadsheet is opened. You can also use standard Excel password protection for opening or editing BreezeGL workbooks. Retrieving the data for the enabled companies is a single click. The underlying data is never stored in the workbook. It's held in memory to refresh the reports you create. The base edition of BreezeGL supports reporting on 3 different companies, and you can add additional companies if required. To summarize the introduction, BreezeGL is easy to configure, easy to try out or demonstrate to someone, either using the including datasets or by adding your own company for a 30-day trial demo. No Spire is required to be installed. It works with Spire on the cloud or on-premise. The security is enforced entirely by Spire's API itself. So it's your Spire user credentials that are used. It's licensed per company, not per workstation. So a BreezeGL license can be used by an unlimited number of workstations accessing a particular licensed company. And the basic license covers 3 companies on any particular server. Now I'd like to show you a report created completely from scratch. This is for the Making It Pretty crowd. My big, beautiful balance sheet. The simplest way to get started with BreezeGL is to use one of the templates. There's a Templates tab at the bottom. And these templates will get you started. You can modify these templates or you can add your own templates. Every row in a template here is a column on a report. The heading of the column, the year, and the period that it contains, and whether it contains the net change or the balance of the account. Here's the simplest template we're going to start with, and that's just a simple balance sheet. It's got 1 column. So I'm going to generate this using data from ABC, and I'm going to choose balance sheet. I want accounts with group totals, and I'm going to uncheck revenue and expenses because it is, after all, a balance sheet. So here is my generated sheet, and we can start to get some insight as to how BreezeGL works. These numeric formulas here use a built-in function called getValue. And if we double click, we can see that it's getting the value from the general ledger based on this company, this account criteria, this year in this cell, and this period. So these are dynamic, as you'd expect. If I change the period number, my data changes. So this formula is using the getDate function, and it's using the year and the period number to retrieve the date. So that also changes. And I can just dynamically change my company name. So now I'm getting data from a completely different company. Now I'm going to modify this report. I'm going to be using very simple cutting and pasting and fonts changing. I'm going to be doing things like hiding columns. I'm going to be doing things like adding columns. I'm going to be inserting rows. And I'm going to be doing things like changing fonts. It takes me about 4.5 minutes to customize this statement. But rather than making you sit through 4.5 minutes of cutting and pasting, I'm going to accelerate the video into about 40 seconds. Hey, while Peter's busy working on his big, beautiful balance sheet, I just wanted to jump in and let you guys in on a little secret. Peter is not actually that good in Excel. Sure, he's a wizard with the Spire API, but his Excel skills are, how can I put this, fair to middling. If he can do it, I'm sure you, or your intern, or maybe even your cat can do it. Shh, he's back. So here is my completed balance sheet. One edit I did want to show you is that I'm going to do one more thing, and I'm going to add a filter here. It's traditional that on a balance sheet, if an account has a zero balance, you don't show it. So there's a simple way to just suppress those. And we've got something now which is much tidier. And I don't really want this row here. Everyone understands what these columns are, I'm going to assume. So let's see what it looks like printed. I don't want the information at the top to appear, so I'm going to set my print area. Page layout, print area, set the print area, and now let's see what it looks like printed. I'd like to see it landscape, and I'd like to see it fit on a page. And there we have my big, beautiful balance sheet. My second example shows how we can illustrate a structure that can exist in a simple list of accounts. As we've seen, the sample data uses the Spire feature location accounting to segment the GL to represent physical locations, in this case, head office, Toronto, and Vancouver. So this example is aptly called location, 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 which I found out was originally coined by Harold Samuel in 1944 and repeated by every real estate agent ever since. I'm going to start this example by looking at the templates. And we have a template for this example, income by location. And the thing to note here is that I've indicated that each column should be assigned to a particular segment 2. And segment 2 is where I'm storing the location. So I'm going to generate the sheet. income by location. I want accounts with group totals, and generate my sheet. You'll notice with this sheet, now we have columns for our locations. So this formula gets its values not from the segment 2 column here, but from the title of the column here. And this column being the total of all locations, its value is an asterisk. So the asterisk is a wildcard, meaning all locations. Now we can use that wildcard over here. You'll notice that for each account that exists in multiple currencies, I'm getting the account number twice. I don't really want that. I'd like sales of audio represented just once for a combination of the base currency and, in this case, US dollars. So what I can do is I can put a wildcard in here. If you look at this number here, this 28,000, if I put a wildcard in here, that number changes to the total for both. So now I don't need this US dollar account. I could delete it. Now I could reproduce that for all the accounts in the list, but I want to make my life easier. So I'm going to, first of all, just show me all the USD accounts, and we'll just delete those. And now clear my filter. But I need to put an asterisk in for all the other account numbers. So I'm going to just remove blanks so that I'm only adding an asterisk where there's an account number. And I'm going to copy this asterisk to every account. So now every account is showing the sum of all currencies. The next thing I'd like to do is to do some calculations. Or actually, let's remove my filter. Before I do that, one thing that this report doesn't have is a net income. So I'm just going to add that to the bottom. Net income. And that's simply equal to total revenues minus total expenses. And I'll copy that across. So I'd like some calculated columns here. I'd like to know what percentage is Toronto of the total sales of audio in that case. So I'm going to insert some columns into this report. So this column is going to be the head office percentage. And I'm going to say that this is the percentage, this divided by the total. And I'm going to use an if error function because I don't want to divide by 0 error. So I want to say that it is this divided by this. And if it's an error, just give me a blank space. That's going to fill down automatically for me. And now I'm going to format that as a percentage. Now I'm going to do the same procedure for those other columns, but I'm going to speed through it. The next thing I'm going to do is put in a filter. In our first example, we had one column of numbers and we wanted to filter out where that column was 0. But here it's a little more complicated. We need to filter out when head office and Vancouver and Toronto are 0. So for that, we're going to use an advanced filter here. BreezeGL will do this for you automatically when it generates a sheet. But I'd like to show you how straightforward it is. So I'm going to reproduce the column headings that I'm interested in here. And I only want to show the account if this is not 0, and this isn't 0, and this isn't 0. The trick here is to create a named range for these cells of criteria. BreezeGL understands what that means, and it should be specific just to this sheet. Now, if we go to the Advanced Filter tab, it knows that those cells at the top are our criteria. So now it's going to filter that out dynamically. So if we choose a different period where there are balances in those 0 accounts, it's automatically going to filter them so that they show. I'd like to do some cleanup, cosmetic work like I did on the balance sheet. And again, it's just cutting and pasting, so I will speed through that. There. It's looking almost ready. Now, something I did on fast forward before was to move this data up to the top left corner. We don't want to have to specify period 4 times for every column, because this report, every column is period 3. Some reports have column 1 is period 1, column 2 is period 2, etc. So I'm going to now just do the same thing and move this data up into the top left for convenience. And I'll speed through that as well. There. Now my report is prettier. We will again set the print location. And see what we get. And there we have our income statement. I'd like to show you another quick example of consolidating multiple companies. I'm going to go back to our templates, and I'm going to use this income statement template. It's a simple income statement with a month-to-date column. I'm going to generate it. An income statement. And I'm going to choose something different here. I'm just going to go with groups only. So it's going to be a summary income statement, and I'm going to include the type totals and its revenues and expenses. So here's my sheet. Now, we talked about how these formulas reference the database name up here. That cell is actually a named range given the name DB name. So I'm going to insert a database 2 here. I'm going to use Spire, and I'm going to give this a name, and I'll call this DB name 2. So now I'm going to create a new column here and paste it here. Now this column is actually going to be my year to date for the company 1. And so I'm going to put LY here and 1 to 3 here. So this is month to date, just period 3. This is year to date, 1 to 3. And they are both just for ABC. But now I'm going to copy those together and paste them here. And again, I'm going to copy these cells at the top over because that's what drives those formulas. So at the moment, we now have the same in those two columns. But I'm going to do a search and replace DB name with DB name 2 in these cells. I'm going to do a find and replace. Find DB name, replace with DB name 2. So we now have an income statement that is consolidated between both companies. Now I can put totals over here and then hide these if I didn't need to see it broken out. But what if those companies didn't have the same fiscal years? What if March 2021 in Spire March was actually period 5? And if that would make January to March to be 3, 4, 5 or 3 to 5. So now we've got a consolidated income statement for two companies with different fiscal periods. So basically you can pull any number from any account from any period and put it exactly where you want it. You can build anything. Another powerful feature is the ability for any numerical value on any report, not just for an account, but it could be a total or a subtotal. You can highlight that cell, hit Control-Shift-T, give the cell, the new sheet, a name. It's going to create a new sheet for us. Gross sales. And this is a drill down of all the actual transactions that make up that total. If I want to know where this came from, this link here will highlight the cell where this was launched from. And it's showing me the amount there, 67,000. So I go back to and I can verify that. If I total this, there's my same number. I can filter these if I like. So I can see just particular accounts. And that has a different total. And I can also use this link. This link is going to launch the Spire web app for the document in question. So I clicked on an invoice number and it brought me to that invoice number. 30016 is the invoice that I launched it from. One final thing I'd like to show you is the Examples tab. The Example tab is designed to help you understand the different formulas. We've only looked at two of the formulas, get value and get date, but there are other formulas that allow you to get text information, such as the name of an account, etc. So you can build these reports from scratch. You don't have to use a template at all. So if I just insert a couple of rows here, if I just start out with a list of account numbers, 40100 and 40200, and I put my effort into creating these formulas here at the top of my report for all of my columns, I can then simply, with a row of account numbers down the left-hand side, I can copy those down and I can pull the data for the entire report from just a list of account numbers once I've got that first row. And you'll see here we pulled the name of the account. We didn't put the description of the account in. It pulled that using the get account info formula. So here's just some useful examples. Here's a balance sheet built from scratch using group totals. And here's an income statement. Well, I've used up all my available time, but thank you for watching. Please visit my booth with any questions and check out spireassists.com.